Mr. El Presidente, Donald J. Trump, beats Big Tish, Letitia James, the embattled New York Attorney General, and Mershon, that odious judge, in the absolute sham case that they brought before the courts and got a supposed $500 million judgment against Trump. Well, the New York appeals court threw out, rightfully so, the judgment. Here we go.
Appeals court just this morning has thrown out President Donald Trump's massive civil fraud penalty. The decision from a 5-panel group in New York's appellate division changed the original decision that stood to cost Trump over $500 million. One appeals judge calling the lower court's penalty an excessive fine that violates the 8th Amendment of the United States Constitution. You might remember that New York Attorney General Letitia James' office says despite this decision, they will not be dropping the case.
Yeah, double down, Big Tish. You're not in a heap enough trouble with your mortgage stuff and all that. All Trump does is, you know what? Here we go.
All I do is win, 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 no matter what. Got money on my mind, I can never get enough. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up. All I do is win.
Yep, all Trump does is win, baby, win. It's refreshing as heck on that. Well, we'll see how mine. Here we go. That was the absolute stupidest case. There were no damages. None of the banks claimed there was fraud. And they made this up. They were all just like with the, well, now we're finding out with the Mar-a-Lago raid, they were afraid Trump had documents that he didn't have that have been so far incriminating to Hillary and Biden and Obama and the FBI and Comey and all that. They thought they were going to lawfare Trump into not winning the presidency in 2024. Ha, ha, ha. All Trump's done is win, baby, win. To quote the late owner of the Oakland Raiders, Al Davis, and his famous statement. Pursuit, the SoCal freeways, ends in a crash. There you see it in the Vermont Square. Here's the KCAL news report.
USC, it was just after 3 this morning that LAPD says they were chasing that silver Cadillac SUV. The want on it was that it was listed as a stolen vehicle. The driver, the only one inside. LAPD says the pursuit was short, but it ended up here on the 110 freeway. That driver, for some reason, crashed right into the center divider and then was ejected, according to CHP. There he is on the ground, LAPD taking him into custody. He had a pretty serious head wound. He was taken to the hospital by LA City Fire, but the entire freeway had to be closed while LAPD took that man into custody. You can see LA City firefighters in lanes there and that SUV against the...
You know, that's the sad part of this. Look at all the people that had to probably wait hours, were stuck on the freeway of doing this. These guys with the street takeovers and the chases and all that, the penalties really need to get higher. We got a list of the 25 worst freeways in SoCal. Maybe we'll get to that later on in the show, as we work on all that. I love how you set the stuff up and then it comes up with a bunch of stupid idiot garbage on there that you can't get to what you wanted to. Vaya caramba. Anyway, ICE wants you. Volunteer force called on for ICE mass deportation. Trump is asking for people to volunteer. If you think the deportations have been big yet, wait till you see what's coming. As they say, you ain't seen nothing yet. But we shall get to more and more and more as we try to get to the 100% of a lawful country like we used to be. Mr. Koberger is demanding a prison transfer after complaining of inmate sex threats. This is Koberger, the one that killed the three young ladies and the one young man up there at the college town in Idaho. I could see where, I'm predicting where this is going. He's going to ask to be put in, he's going to ask for a federal some sort of transfer to get in a woman's prison. You watch. Because moving to another male prison, I'm going to say is about 111%. Mr. Koberger is not going to in any way diminish the threats of inmate sex in your case. California Assembly approves Newsom's redistricting plan. That's no surprise. DC records murder-free week after Trump's federal takeover. Shay, Councilwoman, a little more to say on that. Candy Olson, Jeanette Wilson, have been leading the charge in Redlands. These are the books, the so-called book ban. No, they're banning, they're getting rid, not banning, getting rid of pornographic material in our schools, and rightly so.
The baby was still in her diapers as the story recounts her father removing her diapers and attempts to insert his penis inside her. Later on, she talks about licking his bodily excretions off of his penis after he has orgasmed.
It's not pornography.
Whoever this, and I'll get the name of this yo-yo on the school board. That is not pornography. Holy cow. Well, as you see, I'm wearing the Save Our Girls Sports. We're going to be down at the Riverside Unified School District supporting the Poly High volleyball girls team, who rightfully so, well, didn't rightfully, in their own safety, forfeited the game. They should have, their schools, their school district, the state, all of us should have stood up for them. No A.B. Hernandez's, no boys in girls sports. Holy cow. This stuff gets, as they say, curiouser and curiouser and curiouser. Gavin Newsom shooting back at Marcus Lemons, who's the new head of Bed Bath & Beyond. They're coming out of bankruptcy, and they said, we're not going to do business in the dumpster fire of California because it's impossible to run a business in California. Lock, stock, and barrel. Absolutely 1,000% ridiculous. There's FFA slide guitar music that comes on every Monday through Friday. Well, usually live at 5, but we're coming on early because we are going to go down to the Riverside Unified School District and support the girls of the Poly High volleyball team, who unfortunately had to forfeit their game because Harupa Valley High is out there again putting boys on the girls' teams. And they're rightfully so. And I think it was in a volleyball game recently in California where a boy was on the girls' team. He hit the ball so hard, hit a girl in the head, and now she's brain damaged. So the insanity of that. And then at the other RUSD here in the Inland Empire, Redlands Unified School District, you heard a little bit, maybe we'll get into a little bit more of that. The absolute, not pornography, double X, just explicit sex books and materials in our schools. And that other yo-yo had the audacity to say, oh, that's not pornography. Well, then what the hell is, lady? If what Jeanette Olson, Candy Olson, said from the school board, and there was more. There was a whole bunch of parents that were up there. This stuff cannot stand. It should not stand in any sort of society that's going to sustain itself, much less pursuit of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We've got to take away all, and I mean all, of this insane madness that's been going on. And it needs to get louder, but John Berry, who's one of the head movers at Redlands Tea Party and over there, and he was a former journalist, used to cover MoVal back in the 90s for the Press Enterprise and Purdue Sun. He said, well, this time, all the Tutti Fruities didn't stand out and tailgate in the parking lot. They just went home. And when you hear more of the extreme, perverted, and I mean, and at times, child rape, and we're going to put that in the schools. 6-year-old, oh God. It's beyond stunning what we're dealing with in our local communities. And it's back in Loudoun County, Virginia, where this stuff all started, where one of the girls got raped by a boy in the girls' bathrooms. And the dad was defending her, and they're arresting him. Well, they're back at it with this same crap. It's not just happening here. It's happening from coast to coast, from the Inland Empire on the left coast to Loudoun County, Virginia, which is just north of the District of Criminals up there in D.C. And this is happening in all points in between. Another, while we're on the school subject, is the Oklahoma State Superintendent has put together a test. If you're a teacher coming from California and New York and want to teach in Oklahoma, he's got a test for you. Because they said, we don't want wokeness, we don't want this crap like's going on at both our USDs and everything in between in Oklahoma. We're not putting up with that. As usual, it's going to come down to the ditch bank Okies to save us. We'll have to carry that burden again. And we will gladfully do it. Time and time again until we stomp out this idiotic madness that keeps pervading our society. sometimes is speechless. I mean, speechless. In some of the cases of what's been said, in these things, it's almost unbelievable. Here's more. And this is stuff I mean, that's in our schools today. I don't even like putting it across the regular broadcast airways, but we're allowing it in elementary schools. Holy bleeping cow. This is a kind of a unusual story. A couple weeks ago, there was a bull or cow that got loose out in Harupa Valley. Actually, I think by Harupa Valley High. Dan Silva's put this out. Well, you know, police officers and the public safety said we got control and we got the animal. Well, it appears two teenagers, two brothers, Carlos and Vincent Garcia, well, Carlos Garcia Jr. and Vincent Garcia, were the ones that actually lassoed the bull out there in Harupa Valley. Here's some of the video that's been put out. You see that. You see the bull walking through the area of the Harupa Valley High School. And then you're going to see the two teenagers actually getting a hold of the bull, lassoing it, and restraining it so it doesn't get on the school property. On top of that, you see them tracking down with the rope on that. So obviously, being in the hillbilly town of Harupa, and you see the cops are there, and you're seeing the kids actually, or the teenagers actually having control of the bull. Well, the cops and stuff watch as the Garcia brothers get control of the bull. Interesting story. Well, I guess we should, it's fun technology. There we go, now you're seeing it. They've got control of the bull while the cops are up there watching. And then the other officer finally assists them in trying to get the bull. But the two teenagers were the one that really got the bull under control and got him into, safety where they got him in a trailer and hauled him off. So good job, the Garcia brothers. We'll recognize you guys. See if we can get this stuff working right. It's sometimes amazing. I wonder how I wonder where they got the rope from. If they were in school, it seems like if they were teenagers, they might have been in school. Where'd they get the rope? Because it looks like they're coming out of class. Maybe it was their bull. I don't know. We're going to have to follow. I have to get a hold of Silva's. Maybe he'll be at the Save Our Girls sports deal out at RUSD. Let's see if there's more details we can get. Now I'm more intrigued about that story. As it goes. The whole Bed Bath & Beyond flap. Bed Bath & Beyond filed for bankruptcy. They're coming out of bankruptcy. They're going to open up 300 more stores. And Marcus Lemonis, executive chairman of Bed Bath & Beyond, put out a statement. But Matt Mahan, mayor of San Jose, Should I say if this guy runs for governor in 26, I think he'd take it. This is serious. We are shooting ourselves in the foot, and we need to acknowledge that San Jose is open for business. We're doing everything we can to make it easier for our employees to succeed. I hope the rest of the state follows suit. Looking forward to seeing how our gubernatorial candidates respond to issues like that. We know our governor responded to it. Well, there was one post out there. This thing is driving me nuts. There's one post out there where Gavin Newsom's press office put out, and they say it wasn't theirs, but F you to Bed Bath & Beyond. And then they were chiding them, oh, you guys are bankrupt. Yeah, they're opening up 300 new stores. Coming out of bankruptcy, it happens. But they're saying, no way, Jose. No way, San Jose. We're coming into California. And the mayor of San Jose, Matt Mahan, saying this is absolutely ridiculous. As we say, well, yeah, he wants to welcome Bed Bath & Beyond in, or any business, as any mayor should. Here's a statement from Marcus Lemonis, chairman of Bed Bath & Beyond. We will not open or operate retail stores in California. This is a decision, isn't about politics. It's about reality. California has created one of the most overregulated, expensive, and risky environments for business in America. It's a system that makes it harder to employ people, harder to keep doors open, and harder to deliver value to customers. That's bad enough if we stopped right there. That means this is why I think in the last decade, practically every survey, the worst place to do business in the United States of America, the once golden state of California. Marcus Lemonis is stamping that harder to employ people, harder to keep the doors open, harder to deliver value to customers. You got vagrants lining the sidewalks getting into the store or in front of the store, pissing and pooping and who knows, drug needles and everything else. It's an absolute shame and sham. Further, quoting from Marcus Lemonis, chairman of Bed Bath & Beyond, the result, higher taxes, higher fees, higher wages that many businesses simply cannot sustain, and endless regulations that strangle growth. Even when the state announces a budget surplus, it's built on the backs of ordinary citizens who are paying too much and businesses who are squeezed until they break. Like I've said, ultimately, the end consumer pays all the taxes. Businesses do not pay taxes. They pass the taxes they pay on to you. Whether you're buying a candy bar food isn't taxed. Toilet paper in the store. Whether your check, which you see if you ever bothered to look, all that money coming out, however it is, like your Social Security. In most cases, unless you're making over about 150 grand a year, the FICA tax you're paying, your employer pays exactly that same amount. That's the cost it has for you to come out in the job, but you never see that other half. They only see the half they're taking out of specifically your check. The employer is matching that. That's money you're not getting. Further quoting from the chair of Bed Bath & Beyond. At Bed Bath & Beyond, it is our responsibility is to our customers and our shareholders. We will not participate in a system that undermines both. Instead, we are investing in a California strategy that works 24, 48-hour delivery, and in many cases, same-day service. Californians will continue to get the products they love through bedbathandbeyond.com without the inflated costs created by an unsustainable model. So yeah, you'll be able to get Bed Bath & Beyond. There will hardly be, other than maybe the delivery driver, that's the only employees that will be in California. There will be no employees in a store. You can't go in there and feel the sheets or sit in the bed and try them out. You know, ladies, you're not going to have that shopping experience. California is stealing that away from you at every opportunity. We are taking a stand because it's time for common sense. Man, how I wanted to hear those words, and we need to hear those words from more business owners, especially in California. And as Matt Mahan, Mayor of San Jose, is from our gubernatorial candidates. I know Sheriff Chad and Steve Hilton have been beating that drum. But yeah, Katie Porter, Tony Atkins, who nobody knows. A couple people know who. Tony Villar Jr., former gang member and four-time bar flunky, exam flunky from the state of California, otherwise known as Antonio Villarosa. That should be the first question we the people should demand the answer. Or for Marcus, businesses deserve the chance to succeed. Employees deserve jobs that last, and customers deserve fair prices. California's system delivers the opposite. That's why Bed Bath & Beyond will serve California customers directly through bedbathandbeyond.com on our terms with their best interests at heart. So there you have it. Bed Bath & Beyond will have no physical presence. They'll have 300 stores elsewhere, all across the 50 states, not one in California, because we've created a frickin' nightmare in this state. Sad. 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 Sometimes you say, well, what happens in the District of Criminals, Washington, D.C., even with the Trump deal with him cleaning up all the proverbial garbage and crime and everything that has been going on in there. 7 days, as we had in the intro, no murders in one of the murder capitals of the world. But you figure, we're 3,000 miles away in the Inland Empire or in Moreno Valley where I'm at. And if you were watching yesterday, you heard Moreno Valley Councilwoman Shaylinda Bernard claiming Trump's running a police state and he's taken over Washington, D.C. And he's out there just shooting brown people that he doesn't like and a whole whatever rhetoric. We're going to play you some more clips from yesterday's meeting. And just as a prelude, maybe tomorrow, we'll see how it goes. Is the meeting they held today at the State of the City potentially illegal? But back to the reality of what we have and how that affects, how what's happening with Trump in Washington, D.C. affects this and everything else, no matter where you live. Here's more from Shaylinda Bernard at Tuesday's council meeting when they were debating whether to close down events, which I'm glad they didn't. At least they took that part. But the other discussion that her colleagues, especially Mayor Baby Jesus Ulysses Cabrera and Elena Baca Santa Cruz, had, were interesting, but we're focusing on Shay because we love Shay. And we love them all too. But just because she was wearing bright green. Here's more from Shaylinda. We thought.
Through and snatch you up because everybody is looking for someone to save them, whether that's law enforcement. And for those that said, what does Sheriff Chad think? He already said what he said, which was, it's a federal thing. I'm not getting involved.
So just to clarify, Shay, when I was, because that was in reference to my public comment, I was specifically what Sheriff, in the report, what Sheriff Chad would say about canceling the event, not the overall deal. Just so you're clear, and I mean, you might not have been clear, so I'm not necessarily busting your chops on that. I'm just clearing the record of what I was talking about. So let's roll further with Shaylinda.
They've put our law enforcement in a difficult position at the county level because most of them, whether they will say it or not, do not agree with the tactics. They have
Whoa. Now, I can't say what contact Shaylinda has, but I talked to a lot of law enforcement personnel and Riverside County Sheriff's Departments, from the deputies to the CSOs to the sergeants, lieutenants, captains, police chiefs, assistant sheriffs, undersheriffs, and even Sheriff Chad himself. Now, they might not agree with specific tactics, but my conversations with all of them is they have been waiting for the day that we start cleaning up the illegal immigration problem, not only here, but across the nation, but especially in Riverside County. The illegal drug weeds, the sex trafficking, the labor trafficking, and everything that's been going on. So again, I don't know what Shaylinda's comments are or contacts with them or that, but I can tell you what my conversations, and that goes across a broad cross-section at Riverside County Sheriff's Department, from low man on the totem pole, from the dispatchers answering the phone to Sheriff Chad himself. And I get a different, way different, 180-degree different than what Shay's trying to portray.
Deputized just about anybody everywhere and said, go out, go forth and figure it out. You got people cosplaying and they're just out here kicking in doors. Don't want to hear about warrants because what happened to that family in San Bernardino was not about a warrant. When they asked if they had a warrant and they didn't have a warrant, they fired off multiple shots into those cars.
They don't have to have a warrant. They have to have probable cause. Different deal. At least my understanding of it. If you have a different one, and let's hear the whole story before we start making a bunch of judgments about what went on. Cops have their story. People inside of the car have their story. Let's let the due process play out before we start making snap judgments, Shay.
They want us in fear. Do they have us in fear? At some points, I would say yes. But at the same time, I think the public needs to understand that if we continue with any events, if we do anything, we cannot guarantee. That is just the simple truth and fact of it, is that we cannot guarantee. I support every event that we do here. I am fine with every event.
And I'm 100% agreement with Shay on that. And I wish the police chief would have chimed in more on that. But she's exactly right. At any time, we cannot 100% guarantee everyone's going to be 100% safe. There's evil people in the world. Bad things happen. Natural disasters happen. Screwballs like Koberger show up and murder 4 innocent young people. It's the reality of our...
But I need the public to know, because the way everyone called us, well, what are you guys going to do? They're kidnapping people off the street. Okay, well, we can call law enforcement, but as soon as law enforcement gets there and they're told, hey, this is a federal investigation. This is part of law enforcement, our county, because this is, again, government, our county, there's nothing we can do. The state, there's nothing we can do. So I think that the public also needs to be fully aware and fully understand that these are truly some of the...
She's 100% right there. They're federal law enforcement agents. They have jurisdiction in all 50 states to enforce the law in that. 111%.
The outcomes that can happen. And so I'm fine with our events continuing, but I think the public does need to be aware that we cannot guarantee. The city cannot guarantee, law enforcement cannot guarantee any of these things. And as long as you're okay, because, when they said the revolution would not be televised, they did not literally mean it would not be on the television. They literally meant it would be in the street. And so I say this with all caution and all respect, that no matter what's decided up here, every citizen, every resident, whether documented, undocumented, regardless of status, has got to make a decision about what they're willing to put forward in this United States of America and what democracy looks like to them.
See that word democracy, like we said, and we had Aaron Russo's on there. And she said it. The revolution's going to start in the streets. Words from your councilwoman, Shaylinda Bernard. The revolution is going to start in the streets. George Floyd, burn your house, take your property. This stuff, and we're going to protest no murders in D.C. and call Trump a fascist and police state. Absolutely. 100% devastating, criminal, and will be the end of society if we take the path Shaylinda is indicating. And I'm not trying to be hyperbole about that. But this stuff, that's dangerous rhetoric that was going on. Revolution in the streets. Democracy. Again, democracy is what 50% plus one decide. If they decide, you know what, anybody with the name Shaylinda, we're going to throw them in the gulag in solitary confinement, give them a bowl of gruel a day, until they're as deader than a doornail. What a representative republic, what George Washington, Thomas Paine, James Madison, Ben Franklin, Andrew Jackson, back in 1776 did was protect the minority. That is the one person out of 330 or whatever we got million is getting their rights violated. we will come to that person's defense as a government that their inalienable rights will not be violated by a tyrannical king, by a Gestapo city council, or anybody else. That was those evil white men. And you know what? And we've ran the clips on it on Independence Day, and go back and look at it. And if they wouldn't have modified, if they wouldn't have negotiated the slavery deal, there would be no United States of America, and you'd be under King George's rule, Shay. You would not be living in the United States of America today, Shay, where you can become a council member, or work for a college, or work for the county, and raise a couple kids, and live the American dream by having a house and a car. Nothing, just like you can't protect everybody 100%, Shay, nothing is 100% perfect. I didn't design this whole thing. I'm just one of the fire ants that's living in it just like you and everybody else. What, 8 billion people here on Earth? About 96% of the people do not have it as good as anyone, as the lowest man on the toe, as a person who has it the worst in the United States. Practically 96% of the population does not have it as good as every one of us have it in the United States, the greatest country in the history of humankind on Earth. So, well, and I pointed out the points I agreed with you with. And I pointed out the points that I disagreed with you. And just like with you or anybody else, I offer you the opportunity to come in studio and we'll have a discussion about this or any other issue you'd like, or practically. We'll even debate the price of tea in China, my favorite subject. Because I believe the issue's not subtle. So I believe it's coming back in some form. So we're setting the stage of parameters. And if the city council was doing their job right, as somebody proposed, they would be doing study sessions 2 a month like we used to do. And bringing these issues forward so they're not a big surprise to everybody when they hit the council agenda. We've debated them, talked about them, got everybody's input, maybe adjusted things, got it worked out, then bring it to council. And you know what? If you would do it like I said, you would spend less time. As a council person, Shay, even though you might be adding one more meeting a month on televised meetings, but you'll be eliminating a lot of other BS extraneous stuff and reforming the boards and commissions and everything. That's your time. You will have more time to spend with your family. And the city will run much smoother instead of, like I stated earlier today at the special meeting of the Moreno Valley Council, we won't look like a clown show like we had at the last regular council meeting and archive them back to 40 years from the first one, which was done illegally 40-some years ago at then Bob's Big Boy, now Black Bear Diner. At what day do we learn this lesson? I throw that out to you, Shay, your colleagues, and everyone else. definitely be interesting how all this shakes out. One of the more interesting parameters, and like I said, now this is one, all those she sawed off, I don't think she's 4'11" tall. She's very short. Judge Jeanine Pirro. On Fox News, she had one of those judge shows on in the daytime. Trump has now appointed her head prosecutor in Washington, D.C. to straighten it out, and straighten it out she has. There's the stats of the police state Trump's bringing in, Shay. Of the once place where nobody felt safe, or practically nobody did, unless you were a very rich politician who we, the people, were paying for your security. Judge Jeanine posts last night in D.C., 53 arrests, 10 illegal gun seized. That brings the total to 630 arrests and 86 illegal guns off the streets. Under President Trump's leadership, increased law enforcement is helping restore safety to D.C. The goal is a clear safety for all. So the police state, what laws, what due process, what constitutional or civil rights or the Trump administration or Jeanine Pirro or the D.C. cops are performing that you're hinting we're going to have to be revolutioning in the streets about? Or they're kidnapping people off the street, or you're running that, well, they're calling up and saying they're kidnapping off the street. Well, give us some evidence of that. You're just going along, grabbing the brown people off the street, throwing them in the paddy wagon, and what? Taking them to the gas chamber? What's the insinuation there? See if we can get Judge Jeanine, now head prosecutor in D.C. Here we go.
Hi, everyone. It is Judge Jeanine. It is Thursday morning, August the 21st, and we are here in D.C. where the president's surge to make D.C. safe and beautiful again is working. Last night, we had 53 arrests. 10 guns were taken off the street, making it a total of 630 arrests and 86 guns taken off the street. So what does that mean? That means those guns cannot be used to shoot or kill anyone. So as the president continues to make D.C. safe, we will continue to prosecute the cases, support the blue, and get those guns out of the hands of.
So, getting guns out of the hands of criminals is a police state. Is that what you're saying, Shay? Words have meanings. You're a good communicator, Shay. You get your points across. Just like with the democracy. You are against the minority. You're against defending their rights. You're against majority rule, whatever that is. When you say democracy, that's what it means. That's why we were not. Those evil white boys, Washington, Paine, Jefferson, Jackson, Franklin, they hated democracy because that's what they were under, starving them to death. Tea Party, taxed to death, ruled with an iron fist. They did get, if you disobeyed the king, you did get kidnapped and scooped up. And just like the cartels, they'd cut your head off, throw you in the middle of the town square and say, who's the next one that wants to disobey the king? That's democracy. Democracy is nothing different than a tin-horn dictatorship. It's no different than Vladimir Putin, Idi Amin, Hugo Chavez, Fidel Castro, or anything else. But it's meant to be a softer word so we can shove it down your throat. So, when you say democracy, You are anti the minority. You're anti civil rights. You're for whatever the majority decides. Words have meanings. And you're sharp enough to know what the meanings of those words are. I hope one day we'll get to the point where our public officials will stop spreading the fear in our community and uniting it. It's something that we really need to get a hold of. You know, like this deal with California, the driver's license. 3 people lost their lives. Truck driver can't speak English, can't identify the street signs, winds up killing 3 people in this country illegally. And they got a California commercial driver's license, which allowed them to drive a truck. And Trump shutting that off. Oh, that's a police state? That's a police state? And again, this is why Moreno Valley, California. Matt Mahan, mayor, Democrat of San Jose, saying, hey, this stuff is stupid. Look at Bed Bath & Beyond. They're saying it is absolutely ridiculous. I'm going to play a clip, actually, of Marcus Lemone's chair of Bed Bath & Beyond, opening 300 new stores, not a one in California because we're a big dumpster fire.
Well, I think the thing that was really surprising to me is that I tried to articulate in a non-aggressive way exactly why our company wasn't going to reinvest capital in California. And what I found out this afternoon is that Governor Newsom has enough time to respond to a tweet as opposed to a private DM or having somebody reach out to remind everybody in America that in 2023, before we bought the intellectual property, that the company went out of business. We all know that Bed Bath went out of business a few years ago. Now we're trying to make a comeback. And I would think that a governor would want to attract investment, attract capital into the state. In fact, he did the opposite. He rejected it. It's a very simple model for me. As a capitalist myself, I want to do business in all 50 states, and I want to do business with all people of all political parties. That's part of being a capitalist. But what I don't want to do is put my shareholders, my employees, and myself in a situation where we're regulated to a zero. And we don't want to spend $100 million coming into California and then find out that the state's going to take it all and waste it all.
So, just like with Shay, this is my point. Just like what I said this morning and at the council meeting, Matt Mahan's basically said this. Look at the projects that are not coming through. The cancellation of planning commission meetings in Moreno Valley. This is why. Like Matt Mahan says, we should be welcoming business in. There's a big business coming in, went bankrupt. The new guys come in and bought it up. We're going to retool this thing, bring it back. But not in California because it's a dumpster fire. Moreno Valley's a dumpster fire, a big dumpster fire within a larger dumpster fire. And again, my point is, and what I would, like I said, Tuesday, You should be bringing words to unite our community, not divide us, not spreading fear in the community. Saying 100%, if you're in this country legally and lawfully, you have no worries. And if somebody's harassing you, if you're in that, then let us know, because we'll be the first ones out there taking up your case. If you're a Mexican or Chinese cartel, sex trafficking, which is big in Moreno Valley, or labor trafficking, those 21st century slaves that you and the democracy crew love to have because they're enslaving to you. They're doing work for you at less cost and elevating you to the positions you're in. That's your democracy. That's what you're spreading. And I think most of you in the government agencies know this. And if you don't, you know it now. So let's stop the fear mongering. Let's stop empowering the slave traders, the oligarchs, the dictators. Or is that what you want to be? If that's what you want to be honest about where you're at. If that's what your revolution is to put you in power. It's like has been said. Mason Weaver. His book, To Keep You on the Plantation. If your goal is to keep us on the plantation, then state it 100%. Be honest about it. If your goal is to give everybody the opportunity to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, then please, let's join hands together in that. Eliminate the cartels. Save girls' sports. No extreme, illegal, and criminal pornography in our schools. How about let's actually educate our schools, or educate our kids in schools in the skills that are going to make their lives better. And as I've said many times, we just sit down at the round table, put all the extraneous BS aside, and just talk to people. You will find, in almost every case, we all have a lot more common ground than we do differences. And if we start at that point, where we all have common ground, then our differences become much easier to solve or deal with. Well, we're going to wrap it up for today early on the show. I'll run a tape. We'll have a tape portion of this on KMET at 5:30. So we'll be back on Faster Than You Friday as we end this Practice Friday day. And I'm sure there'll be 9 gazillion more stories to talk about. Of course, we'll talk about what happened at Riverside School Board and supporting the Poly High girls volleyball team who had to forfeit a game because there was boys on the team. We all know the drill. We'll get down to maybe what happened at the state of the city, and I'm sure there'll be the local genre of police chases, car crashes, crime and mayhem, and even some of the good stuff in Sweden, some of the just absolutely lovely things that happen. We'll cover it all as we break out the week tomorrow. That'll do it for today. As we usually say at this time, mandatory you're back here in 23 hours live to hear the best darn show in the whole wide world. Until then, see ya.